Hello, greetings and welcome back to another session of the course titled Academic Speaking and Presentation Skills. In today's session, we are going to learn about mastering the skills of interpretation and summarizing. Let's see what we have in our chart to cover for the day. First, we are going to learn about the role of interpretation and summarizing in a conversation. We'll then look for the different techniques that will help us to effective interpretation. We'll then learn also different tips and techniques to do a good summary. Later, we are going to look at the benefits of summarizing as well as the skill of interpretation. Lastly, we are going to learn the mantra to master both of these skills. Without wasting further time, let's go towards our first topic, role of interpretation and summarizing. Before understanding the role of interpretation and summarizing, do you know what the word interpretation means? Is it assuming or to suppose something? I think not. It is, I believe, hurried conclusion. Correct? No, that would also be wrong. Interpretation is basically to understand or decode that which is said and not that which is not said. So we are not going to overthink or assume certain things. We are simply going to try decode that which is sent by the speaker or the sender within the act of communication. Then what is summarizing? Summarizing is a step ahead to it. So let's see what role does this interpretation and summarizing play in an effective communication. First, skills of interpretation and summary both are commonly linked with the act of listening during a conversation. If you consider that only speaking would help, then it is a big myth. In any art of good communication, you will know that it is two different parties that play equal role in any communication to be more effective, and that is A, the speaker, B, we are also going to give importance to the listener. Again, when it is about speaking, we have already learnt various tricks, techniques of persuading someone, convincing someone, transacting our ideas into the best way possible. But when it comes to listening, how can we do good listening, or how can we do the act of decoding? This trick of interpretation and summarizing is going to help us a lot over here. So therefore, again, know that accurate interpretation can actually fasten the speed of decoding the speaker's message. We need to also understand that interpretation can boost the sense of critical thinking and brings clarity to any message that is received by the speaker. Right? So therefore, we need to understand the importance of these two different skills. Moving ahead to the act of summary, we need to understand that it aids to verify what is the intended meaning of the speaker during the whole conversation. We also need to understand that summarizing can clarify any misunderstanding that can happen during a regular communication process. So therefore, the role of interpretation and summarizing is not a minor one. It is playing a crucial role in any act of effective communication. Okay, what do we see on the screen? What are all these blasts about? These blasts are basically huge challenges that we are facing as a listener. Whenever you are trying to practice the art of interpretation and summarizing, these are going to come in the way. They may blast anytime based on the triggers that we have. What are these triggers about? The first challenge is biases and prejudices. It is very common, a human tendency again I would say, right, to carry biases and prejudices. Let's assume that a friend of mine has an impression of being very talkative and she has a habit of oversharing as well. Once, while into my emotions, I got carried away and shared my secret with her while somebody was overhearing from the back. What happened is, when the news went public, I blamed my friend responsible for it. Correct? This is an apt example of carrying biases or prejudices. Just because the person has a habit of doing certain things, we should not assume, we should not prejudice somebody just based on it. And it's not just only about a person. Prejudices could also be about things. It could be about your basic phobias, right? Any bias that we carry regarding a community could also be a hurdle. It could create an obstacle. And we should not forget that this is a huge challenge to interpret the correct message that is delivered during any communication process. Next, moving ahead, personal experiences. We all know, we have all gone through, certain experiences in life. And again, age would not be a problem here. Because young or old, every one of us have our unique experiences, a unique journey. What happens is, if we would have received certain bad experiences, right, we would just, not want it to be repeated again. And in that impression, we would be very vigilant, alert, and careful. And majorly, sometimes what happens is, in a basic communication where there is no need of being this alert or vigilant, we would try impose our personal experiences into something. Have you ever met a person who would always have a story to say, no matter what you would try to share? I also have the same experience. Do you know that I believed, and they would cut your conversation in between. That is basically imposing the personal experiences into a communication process which is fresh. Next is again a huge challenge to avoid generalization, right? A basic example over here would be that teenagers are irresponsible. Who says that? I have seen teenagers who work as well as they are studying. What great responsibilities they might hold to A, first make their own career, B, to also serve well for oneself. So therefore, again, another, generalizing statement would be old people are orthodox. Have you ever met old people who are pro, ultra level than what we are? So therefore, these are great challenges. Next to it, we have the challenge of assumption and overthinking. We first, cracked the meaning of interpretation, and assumption is a big no. We do not have to assume anything from the very beginning, and definitely not assume anything which is not said. At the same point of time, overthinking could actually trigger more assumptions. What do we understand by overthinking? Answering every question of WH. What happened? Why did it happen? Who did it? For whom it was, and how, and I don't know what. So, therefore, linking associations which are not even relevant, the person would move out of the context. This is a very basic challenge to fight with. In today's time, we all know that we are the victim of overthinking. Again, last is the distraction. Any emotional, personal, or even the situational baggage that we are carrying on our shoulders, we need to drop all of it while making an effective communication. You should know the importance. The art of communication cannot be learned otherwise. Any distraction that we have must be left aside. Fighting all of these challenges, only we would be able to implement the techniques of interpretation. So what are the techniques of effective interpretation? The very first one is active listening. It is not just simply hearing. It is being fully focused on whatever is being said. We have to decode certain messages said, intentions delivered with great efforts. That can be done by first erasing these interpretations that could come, right? All the interferences, all the hurdles, obstacles or barriers that could be of a communication, we need to try erase all of them or maximum of them possible. Second is acknowledge with verbal cues. If you want to be an active listener, you need to understand, to be very aware and vigilant of what is being said. You can use the general verbal cues. It will not only help you to pay more attention and bring your concentration to the conversation that is being said, but it will also help you to interpret the message effectively. So correctly, right? What could be the general verbal cues? Yeah, yes, I'm listening. Okay, I get it. I understand, right? All of this could be actually very good verbal clues to be used while, making interpretations. Next is paraphrasing and verifying. At the last, when you listen to everything, when you are into the midst of, a lot that is being said, you have recollected a lot of information. You think that this is a time where you will get baffled or confused. You have, a nice tool of paraphrasing where you can simply mention, right? Wait a minute, I am trying to understand that this all, X, Y, Z, whatsoever it started here, and this is the actual thing, and you can verify it. Am I correct? The moment the other person says correct, your understanding would be, valid, justified, and that would serve the purpose of good communication. Moving ahead, wonderful technique of summarizing. It is the act of restating the message in precise manner, exactly to the point. So the first step in this is basically identifying the keywords. Whenever somebody is trying to say something to you, or in any communication that we are a part of, you need to understand the keywords, which are the words that are emphasized the most, or maybe are given more importance, right? So the idea of the topic. So then you will underline different keywords. Then focus on the main idea. What main idea is? What is the whole context of the things that is being said? Make mental notes of both the keywords and the context of whatever is being said. Try put it into your own language, which is concise. That is the third point. You will have to be very precise. You will have to, be to the point. You will have to, just share the crux out of the, let's assume it's a whole of 1 hour meeting and you need to make a summary of it. How would you do it? The best way to do it would be this, right? Identify the keywords, know the context of it, right? Put it in your own words in to the point manner. But it doesn't end there. It is not just putting the whole concept into your own words. It is rather verifying the sender's intention. So the whole meeting happened because of a particular agenda, and that agenda had certain important details that were delivered by the senders. You will have to try, decode that intention with the message. And that's the complete message, by the way, right? So you need to verify it and ensure for a good feedback. Once that is there, you know that you have played a complete role that is required to be played. And that's the best technique to summarize. You get the clue from the other person. It's not just you saying, this is it, right? And you do not even wait for the answer and you hook up, right? So therefore, you need to understand that this is it, right? You need to interpret it correctly, and it's not just about the comprehension of what you have understood, but it is rather also ensuring the feedback. Therefore, let's know the benefits of interpretation and summary. When we talk about, growing the effectiveness of any communication that is done, you need to understand this very nicely, that effective communication builds efficiency during a conversation, right? It is, time saving, it is quick, it is happening the way it is supposed to happen, and at the same point of time, you can address all the concerns directly. So therefore, it is time effective. It addresses the problem that it is, directly, and it will also build efficiency. Third, it will able to achieve, the desired outcome that we want. It will also enhance the conflict resolution, right? So whenever we are, having or faced with multiple conflicts, it will resolve our conflicts. And then even it will help us to make powerful decision. It will help us to, or it will boost us to make correct decisions. So if the communication has gone wrong, you know the disasters that it can bring. But if the communication goes right, the trick of interpretation and summary is actually the key. The whole, art of communication that we say is in speaking and is in comprehending. So if you know and if you have the power to persuade someone or convince someone, and at the same point of time you have another, kind of a tool that can crack the code through listening, and that is through the power of interpretation and summary, there is no way that any communication would go wrong. So you will be, though faced with problems, you will come out of it immediately. Though there are, situations are baffling, you would be able to make correct decisions without depending on someone else. So being a part of good communication, be it at your personal levels, be it at your professional levels, these skills of interpretation and summary are going to be very helpful. The mantra to master this skill is simply this. A wonderful image that you can see on the screen is the intertwined, entangled wires with proper mechanism of the techniques of interpretation and summary can actually target what you are supposed to. So therefore, I have put this picture over here, that you need to put the mechanism or whatever you have learned, the tricks and techniques to interpret and summarize better. And you can build up the skills. When we say skills, we need to understand that nothing can grow overnight. Just because I have said it, just because you have heard it, it will not, you did not have the power to possess the same skill. Until and unless you practice something, you will never be able to have command over it. So therefore, practice is the key, and the only mantra that will help you to master both the skills of interpretation as well as summarizing. Unfolding the summary over here, right, in today's session, what we have learned is basically the skills of interpretation and summarizing. We should know that both of these skills facilitate to quicker and more accurate understanding of the information that is being conveyed, right? So in an art of communication, we need to understand that summary and interpretation will help not only speed up or fasten up, but it will help us to actually accurately understand and comprehend the concept that is said. Again, it allows for correction and misinterpretation. If at all we have, misinterpreted something, it will help us. It will give us a window to move out of this misinterpretation, or you can save yourself from any disaster that you might create. So it will, before any issues get escalated, it will ensure that both the parties, be it the speaker or the listener, are on the same page. So you have the chain to pull through the skills of interpretation and summary. You will be able to again ensure the effectiveness of the communication that is done. And lastly, we can check whether the transmission of the idea or message during any conversation that is being made is correct or not, whether it is accurate or not. So hope that you will definitely practice the skills of interpretation as well as summarizing that we have learned in today's session, right? Thank you so much for holding your patience through the session, and hoping to see you in the next class.